Hello and welcome to Yes, I'm starting a bit early today. So here we are in the Dragon Cave. I do love the name of that. It's a sunny day, as you can tell from the side there. And I think next week I may be doing this in a different location, which means you might get to see Panther and Tiki, who are currently crashed out and purring away, snoozing in the living room. Thought I would share today. Behind me, I have San Gabriel Archangel incense. And each morning when I come in here, I do have incense going. It's always nice to have that extra fragrance and lightness. I'm also happy to say the lilacs have had a bit of a scent in the last few days, so that's good, even though it's still chilly here. I have the window open, which always helps, means some fresh air coming through, although it's still chilly here, although it's May the 11th. But it is what it is. Today, also, because I did get the Artist's Way reading done yesterday, I think I'm going to start sticking with reading it on Sundays, making my notes, picking out my exercises. Last week, I shared that I now have it in a container, so I have my book, my workbook, all my markers, everything. So all I have to do is grab that container and work away. So since I have my notes done, this week I'm going to cover what we're going over for week 6. And this week our focus is on recovering a sense of abundance. Very important. And then during the productivity part, I'm going to be going back. Actually, I think I'll do that after because I need to time where in the live stream I did the summaries for week 4 and week 5 as I read those and then talked about them at the end of the live sprint. So I need to add those timestamps, and that also means I need to make myself a note. So many notes and still working through the piles of paper, but that's okay. You get there in good time. So I need to live 4 and 5, add timestamp for summary. All right. And I have also in previous videos shared about the basic tools that go along with the program. If you haven't worked through the Artist's Way before, it's a program designed by Julia Cameron. This is based on her 12 years of teaching classes for artists who were blocked. Now, many of the people who came to her classes in Manhattan were artists in terms of musicians, writers, dancers, actors, what you typically think of in terms of artists. But as I mentioned a few weeks ago, it also includes content creators. Whether you're on YouTube or a different platform, this is also art and being creative. And as I mentioned in my recent update video, sometimes we get blocked and it's just hard to sit in front of the camera and produce what we want to produce. At the moment, I can do the live streams. They flow. I don't have to worry about editing. And that's working at the moment. I have a ton of plans, 2 huge file folders to get through with all the ideas, part scripts and notes, because I do use jot notes prior to making a video or doing certain live streams. For me, those are helpful because then I make sure I cover all the points. And sometimes even then I forget them. But as far as the artist's way, so we have the basic tools of course, the book itself. And unlike the listening path, and I did that as a 7-week series with the introduction and then the 6 weeks of the program, those were a bit easier to just do without having a copy of the book if you were interested in watching those and following along. With the artist's way, it's a bit more detailed. And in order to really get full benefit from the program, I do recommend picking up your own copy. I found mine at the local thrift store. This copy, originally, I found my copy at Indigo over a decade plus ago, and I was working through it during a back injury when I was stuck at home for 5 months. That was a long, long, long 5 months. But here we are as I'm working through it the 3rd time. And yeah, it's good because each time you go through it, you reconnect with certain things, you get a little more information. And the great thing about these self-help programs is you can tweak them and modify them so they work for you. And I do appreciate that Julia says in the very beginning to read through the entire thing first and then go back and start working through the weeks. That gives you a good idea of what's coming up, what you're going to be focusing on. It also gives you a good idea of whether it's something that's even going to work for you. That's why I also suggest if you can get a copy through your public library, that's the best way to give it a test run. You may be able to get it in physical copy or even an audio and just give it a quick listen and decide if it's something you're interested in pursuing down the road. I just give little snippets from each week, and the flow of it is she has a set thing that we're working on. She gives different examples and ideas about how that plays out in our life, how it may be blocking or stopping us from moving forward. Then at the end of each week, there are 10 different tasks that you can choose to complete. Of course, you're not going to get them all done in a week. So she recommends, and I agree, pick the ones that you think will be of most benefit to you. Keeping in mind, those aren't the ones that are the easiest and the quickest to do through the week. Some may really require some thought, more than one sitting to complete it. Then each week there's a check-in in terms of how did you do, how did you feel, and then you move on to the next week. If you're doing it in a weekly format, I mean, you could realistically, depending on your time set and with the focus being of unblocking creativity or a slump, you may want to spread it out to 2 weeks if that works better. The tools that she recommends: 1, morning pages, so stream of consciousness as soon as you get up. I've mentioned that I did that the first time I did the program. Doesn't really work for me. I do a different kind of journaling that for me is equally effective. And it's all about noticing where our thoughts are going, suggestions, patterns in our life where we may need to make improvements and tweak things. The other tool that she recommends is the artist date. So you set up a date with yourself. No one else is allowed to come with you. Time is up to you. If you can only do 10 minutes a week based on your schedule, if you can spend an hour, schedule what you can realistically do and what you're going to stick with. In other words, that date is your appointment with yourself, and it's equally as important to keep as if you'd made an appointment with the doctor or the dentist. The whole purpose is to have fun. So it might be going for a walk. It may be time that you're going to do crafts. The example that I have for that, I've been wanting to get my gratitude jars going again. So yesterday I found 2 jars. One is going to be my weekly gratitude, and I'll just put little notes in here. The other is going to be my yearly gratitude jar. Now, thanks to my lovely friend Cindy from Wondering About Nature, I have a variety of stickers that I can use, beautiful little gems, along with some of the washi tape set that she gifted me as well. Lovely surprise, getting surprise mail. And I'll be working on getting these set up. So on those meh kind of days, I can look at these 2 jars and see I have lots to be grateful for and an abundant life. I won't be working on those today, but I do have them set here in my room. And I'm actually going to move them because Tiki likes to get up on the desk now and again. Thankfully, she doesn't do it when I'm not in the room, but why risk it? So I have those set aside and a plan. I'm hoping to get those done this week, actually. So next week, I can show the finished project. That is one idea for an artist date. Figures, I put it somewhere and then here it go, boom, boom. So the artist date, sticking with it. Then we get to the actual work from the artist's way. So that, as I said, this is week 6, and it's about recovering a sense of abundance. Now I've highlighted here, and each week she gives you a nice summary of what's coming up, and then we get into the actual work. So for week 6, Julia says, this week you tackle a major creative block, money. Look at your ideas around God. And she's also mentioned with that word, don't get caught up in the semantics of it. Some people may put in their creative source, universe, divinity, all the other names that people use for the higher power, higher source. So put in there what works for you. Don't get hung up on one word. So we're looking at the ideas around divinity, money, and creative abundance. Explore the ways in which your attitude limit abundance and luxury in your current life. And if you've ever listened to anything by Esther Hicks or a number of the other names that come up with the law of attraction, I'm not a fan of The Secret by, I think it's Rhonda Burns. Could have that wrong, but if you know, you know. There's more to it than just your attitude about abundance and what you bring into your life and what's going on in your life. So just keep that in mind, but it doesn't hurt to take a look at your thoughts about it. She also mentions at the end that this could be a very volatile week as you work through it, because we're really delving into What's your income? How are you spending it? What are your personal values? And that may bring up a variety of different feelings and things. And again, I suggest keep in mind that this isn't about making yourself feel worse or guilty about how you choose to spend your funds. It's just about taking a look at it. So, staying in that positive frame of mind and assessing where you're at. And again, deciding whether you need to do some tweaking or fine tuning. In other words, no guilt, no shame. It's just taking an honest look. And again, your notes, whether it's your morning pages or doing the activities, are for you and you alone. If you want to share those with people, not the morning pages, those are strictly for you. But if you share about your answers in some of the exercises, activities, then be kind to yourself and be very selective about who you're sharing those exercises and answers with. In other words, make sure you're picking someone who is a good sounding board and who is going to encourage and support you in the work that you're doing. And in previous weeks and in the listening path, we've already talked about the people who, those naysayers, who just don't want you to change because they don't want to take a look at themselves and change. So keep that in mind as well. We go on to, and the first part of this, she calls the great creator. And on page 105, we want a God, again, insert whatever word works for you, that feels like a fat paycheck and a license to spend as we please. Listening to the siren song of more, we are deaf to the still, small voice waiting in our soul to whisper, "You're enough." And I wanted to read that because so often people get caught up in you need to be doing something else, you need to be more, you need to have more, and that just becomes a really not good spiral, especially if, like me, you deal with depression and anxiety. And if you let yourself get caught up in that spiraling, that just makes things so much worse, and it makes it so much more challenging to climb back out of that hole we dig ourselves into. So always keep in mind, you're enough. Where you are, you're good, you're enough, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you aren't looking at making changes or wanting to do some things differently. It just means don't be too hard on yourself or putting yourself down or any of that kind of stuff. Partly because, sadly, there are far too many other people in this world who will more than happily be that negative naysayer. So you need to really support yourself, focus on self-care, and be kind to you. And it's funny, obviously there must be a cloud going over the sun right now as things got darker in the background. So maybe that's the universe saying, yeah, sometimes there's those people who will get all dark and look, here comes the sun. So how cool is that? Couldn't have planned, well, I guess I could have planned that out if I was better with editing, but I didn't. It was just the natural world. So, we need to also look at old beliefs that work has to be hard. Not true. If you're really lucky, as I was through my career, you find a job that you love and you go to it. It doesn't mean there weren't challenges or difficult things, whether I was working as a counselor or an educational assistant, but it was work that I enjoyed. So meeting with clients or working with students. And that's going to be different for everybody. So again, assessing what is it that brings you joy that you would love to do, and the bonus is making money. We also look at money worries and how those get in the way of blocking creativity as well as our spiritual growth. And Julia really focuses on this in terms of being a spiritual path, not religion, but making those connections with, as I said, whatever you see as your higher power, higher source in life. Talked about you write, journal, what is God, higher source to you, and what would you like that source to be? So we're really getting down to what is it that motivates us, that we believe in, that we think about in terms of supporting us, being there for us, that in times of difficulty we look to for support, for guidance, all that type of thing. And that really is an important section to make a connection with, is what is your spiritual foundation and support system. Then on page 107, do want to check here. Now, she does have, and throughout the book, and I've mentioned, she has quotes along the side as well as the text and essays itself. This one's by Shakti Gawain. Yeah, my camera on this laptop's really going, so I apologize for that. Hopefully it'll last until the stream is done. The more we learn to operate in the world based on trust in our intuition, the stronger our channel will be and the more money we will have. Again, that ties in with the law of attraction thoughts of what you put out in the universe comes back to us. So if you're putting out that you have abundance, that you're blessed, that things are all going well, then the universe is going to show you all those great things and what's going well and the abundance that you have. She also talks about, and I did mention in terms of writing about God, and she gives the examples of, for some people, God is energy, might be a male or a female, really getting in touch with what is that concept for you. And for some people, it's a collective of higher forces moving us toward our highest good. If you've ever gone to a Reiki class, then there they talk about when you're doing that type of work, it's always for the highest good and the highest healing. On page 107, she gives the example of when you're going to AA, and Julia has shared about her sobriety since in the 1970s, and Alcoholics Anonymous was the big thing for her. So she makes a lot of reference to that program. I still think that's likely why 3 of her programs are 12 weeks. There are, of course, 12 steps to AA. Hey, Kat, thanks for stopping in. I started a little bit early, and this time I'm doing the summary of week 6. So on page 107, we have a new employer, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous promises recovering alcoholics. If we take care of God's business, He will take care of ours. To battered AA newcomers, Such thinking is a lifeline. So here she's talking about people who are in those very first days, first weeks of recovery and abstinence. Hey, Leslie, lovely to see you, sweetie. So, of course, in that moment, if you're an alcoholic or a drug addict or you have another type of addiction, that's when you're the most vulnerable and you need the most support. And as she mentioned in the big book, that's when you're looking at handing things over to God, higher source, because there's just so many other things going on at that point. She goes on to say, to those less desperate, such assurances sound foolish, even deceptive, like we're being conned. The God who has a job for us, the God who has fulfilling work, the God who holds abundance and dignity, who holds a million possibilities, the keys to every door. This God can sound suspiciously like a flim-flam man. And again, that's why you need to really take a look at what do you believe in. Puppies definitely count, Kat. Absolutely. And again, it's what's bringing you joy, what you believe in. I mean, there are a number of people who don't really think about it until poop hits the fan, and then they suddenly consider something. And I was thinking about this yesterday, and as some of you know, things are a bit rough right now. And you also know I follow an earth-based spiritual path, so I was outside for a bit. And you can tell by me getting teary, this is not the typical me, but I'm working through it, and that's okay. It's all going to work out. It's easy to believe in a God, a higher source, whatever you call it, when things are going great. It's not so easy to hang on to those beliefs when, like right now, you're in the middle of a shitstorm and just surrounded by stuff. But thanks, Kat. Big hugs back to you. That's when I'm the most grateful, actually, for having a spiritual path. And even though I was going to do this program last year, and then one thing, it kept getting pushed back with so many other things. So I don't think it's a fluke that I'm doing it again right now when I most need positivity and focusing on what's going right instead of that shitstorm spiral of everything that's going wrong. Thanks, Leslie. Same, sweetheart. And I really appreciate both of you for sure. Man, see, this is how I know things are a mess, because I don't typically, just out of the blue as I'm talking, get teary. And I have been chatting, and as Kat knows, so part of this crap might be one of these stupid meds that's supposed to be helping with the pain and the mood. And as you can clearly see, that's not working. So, well, mood you can see. Pain you can't. But yeah, so I may just have to stop taking that crap, because it is not helping me find a happy place, let me tell you. And there's a lot of good things going on. I mean, I'm grateful for everything. I know I'm going to be okay. I just have to get out of this dark crap. And it's in my head. So I need to get it out and focus on getting some other things done and figured out. Oh, thanks. Well, and so I'm going to share these. So hugs from Kat, hugs from Leslie, and yes, kitty cats. And yeah, oh, thank you. It's okay. We're in the shit spiral together, aren't we? There you go, a jacuzzi. Well, I want a jacuzzi with some lovely lavender incense and such. And I'm going to have to pop away and grab a Kleenex because of all the things that I have in the dragon cave. A Kleenex box isn't one of them. So I will be right back. Grab my Kleenex box, but I have nowhere to put it. I may eventually do a stream of me digging out the dragon cave. I'm kind of looking like Smog at the moment, but in my case, it's not gold and a fancy, what was it? See, if Jenny was here, she'd know the name of the stone. Anyhow, I don't have a big fancy stone. Well, I do have my crystals, actually. I showed those in my video, and I need to pull those out. But basically, my dragon cave is not in a big mountain, but I've got books and notes and stuff all over. And I really do need to start digging my way out. Yeah. Poo jacuzzi. We'll continue. Yeah. Continue to fake it until things get better. Yeah, I agree. We're all overdue, Kat. We're all overdue. All right. So now that I have myself back together mostly, a note that I did put on the side, and yes, no, I know Noah's not here to watch me with my book murdering stuff. But she's also talking about work. And I mean, again, we have to be realistic. We need to pay the bills. You need to do what you got to do to keep a roof over your head, food on the table, pets taken care of. Because, you know, those little sweetie pies are super important. So that's why puppies, kitties, whatever pet you have matters. Now, the note that I made on the side is, to me, and I've talked about this in some of my other videos, I think of work and a job differently. To me, work is what you do to pay the bills and keep that roof over your head and have some fun shopping, etc. It's what you do to keep money in the bank. A job is something that you love to do. It makes your heart sing. It's what you've trained for. It's what brings you joy. At the end of the day, you feel like you've accomplished something. And so to me, a job is something that you would do without a paycheck. In other words, you love it so much that you would do it for free. And it's why sometimes I say as well, for me, YouTube is a job. One, I'm not doing spectacular at the moment because with these stupid depression blips, I'm still not at that continuity, sticking with it for several years, uploading on the same schedule. That just doesn't seem to be what's going to happen anytime soon. But eventually I may get there. Well, no, eventually I'll get there with something that works, and I appreciate everyone who has stuck around for the ups, downs, blips here, there, type of stuff, because to me that's important. And I've also noticed there are a ton of people going through stuff. Like I've noticed some of the channels that I've followed, they haven't had anything in 5 or 6 months. And so the fact that I just kind of last week, and I had been getting content up. I mean, not necessarily doing better than some, but I'm doing something. And to me, YouTube is like that job. I'm not getting paid in this case, but I still plug away at it because there's so many great benefits to it. The part that gets me is that whole editing crap. But eventually I'll get that figured out. There was that blip with Streamlabs, which I've now deleted my account because it just was not working. And that makes me sad because I could have done sprints with, cool timers and backgrounds and this and that versus my weird two-tone background and camera going blip, blip, blip. But anyhow, whatever reason, it wasn't meant to be. I have no idea what happened because I downloaded it from the Streamlabs website. Then I went to Logitech that owns Streamlabs, and it still just, it didn't work. There were too many blips. The screens and where things were supposed to be weren't. I have no idea. Cyber gremlins definitely attacked that whole deal. But as usual, I'm off track. So I did mention, the difference between recognizing work, something to pay the bills, versus job, something you love to do. Even if you wouldn't get paid, you would still be doing it. Now, in Barbara Shear's work, Refuse to Choose, and I do. Yeah, I am at least getting a bit more organized and I can find things a bit quicker. I have taken, yes, the entire book apart. Noah would be screaming at this point. And Refuse to Choose, she goes through so many different things and she talks about the good enough job. I've taken it apart because eventually I want to update it and do a series about her, and it's just easier to keep it all in a page protector. But she talks about the good enough job. In other words, you may not be in the job that you love right now, but you keep that long-term goal and you do what you have to do to keep a roof over your head and food on the table and keep working towards that job that you really want down the road. Man, I got weird stuff going on today, and my glasses other glasses decided to do a whoopsie doodle off my books. And thank you, Kat, for the Voxer flood with puppies and cats. Julia goes on to talk about luxury, and that's going to look different for everybody. And she gives some great examples. So, what is of interest to you? She mentions one person, and I think this is lovely. And actually, I thought of you, Kat. So for Jean, a single sprightly Gerber daisy perched on her night table told her life was a bloom with possibility. And Kat, like me, loves gardening and flowers. And yesterday she shared all these beautiful flowers that she now has, all the amazing colors. So again, it's, what brings joy for you. Another example that Julia gives is someone who got a subscription to a magazine. And, that's a yearly payoff of joy because you're looking forward to that showing up and arriving. Another example, I'm thinking now of BookTube. There's a number of booktubers who share their unboxing. So they get a book that's usually very beautifully done, the sprayed edges, amazing artwork for the cover. So finding what brings joy to you that you can afford and keep yourself upbeat, happy, and positive. Now, she also goes on to, and I want to look here. The example that she gives, and this brought to mind two people who are sadly no longer here, but an individual who spent most of their life, they're very successful, they have a lot of money, but they've also missed out on a lot of things. They weren't living in the meantime, so they've missed time with family and friends and different things they've wanted to do. So, yes, they're successful, but at a high cost. And she talks also about people. So, the two people I thought of, one was a coworker, and I loved being in his classes and working with him. He was just amazing. Worked all his life, and then 2 years after he finally retired, he was gone. It's like, shit, if anyone had deserved to have an amazing decade plus of retirement, it would have been him. Another individual who I thought of, maybe that's why I'm getting all teary through this week, and it has nothing to do with money, it's memories, was another friend of mine who had missed out on so many different things and social events. She was dedicated to an organization trying to get things set up. She had a special needs son. After all of that and years of meetings and work and all the rest of it, the organization was successful and helpful with a number of clients. But after all of that, they told her son didn't qualify. I mean, talk about a huge kick in the ass. And yeah, sadly, due to other health issues that she personally had, she was gone early. Her son is still here and thankfully involved with an agency and housing. So, yeah, this week, reading it and the memories and different things on top of life at the moment was just, she wasn't kidding at the beginning. It's like a volatile 2 days into this week, and it has very little to do with money in terms of my own stuff. But she goes on to talk about, what gives us true joy. And again, that's going to be different for everybody. For me, it's getting to the thrift store and coming home with 10, 20 new books at under $40. There's someone she mentions here, their joy is raspberries. So, although not an inexpensive treat, there's that taste, what you can do with them. That's what brings them joy. For somebody else, it's music and buying albums, which may be odd to some people because now a lot of people either iTunes or Spotify. But again, it's really looking at what makes you happy, what brings you joy, and making sure that you're setting aside time to do that and enjoy those things. I mean, for example, I've got my coloring up here. I've got my box of coloring lower down with all the pages I need to get done, the different ones that look like stained glass. So I just need to find the time to sit and work at that. So, really figuring out what it is. And again, it doesn't have to be big and expensive. Some of the other examples she gives are, well, she calls it a dime store, which gives you an idea of how old this book is. Now it would be the dollar store, but going in to buy some watercolors or a sketch pad or crayons or a pretty journal. Again, it doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to make you happy. Then she talks about, creative living requires the luxury of time. And again, that's going to be different for everybody. You've got to make it fit and tweak it based on your schedule and be realistic about that. It also requires the luxury of space. So I call this the Dragon Cave. And I really love that name. One, because we know I love dragons, and two, because it's a cool name. Downstairs, Bob has his own room with, his own computer, and it's all set up the way he likes it. I have this room set up the way I like it. And then we have the rest of the house set up the way we both like it. So, again, keeping in mind your roommates. Take care. Thanks for stopping in, Kat. So being realistic that you have roommates and, partners, kids, all of that kind of stuff that you share space with. So for some people, you may not be able to have a room that you can set up for yourself. It may be a bookcase. It might be a shelf somewhere, something that you can call your own and personalize. You may want to put some of your favorite books there. Maybe you have cool little ornaments. Somewhere around here, I've got my fake fictional boyfriend pillow and, things like that. Or over here, I've got my fairy with the owl, my incense stick, Himalayan candle burner, candle holder. You're supposed to be able to put a little tea light in it, but it actually sits at the top. So all kinds of things that personalize your space, maybe make you smile when you look at them. Up here, I've got my oracle and different tarot cards, and I've put them in a black box that I could write on with sparkly markers and put stickers on. So again, it doesn't have to be big, huge things. It just needs to be things that bring you joy. Or like the box that I have with the books that I'm planning to read, and there's all kinds of inspirational words on it about hope and belief and all that type of thing. So finding what's going to work best for you in terms of that. She goes on to talk about this whole process is about making a shift in consciousness. What are we focused on? What are we working towards? Where do we put our thoughts, our time, and our energy? That's a good question, Leslie. If I'm a dragon, what's Bob? I don't know. I'll have to ask Bob. Actually, he's probably the wolf. Now that I think about it. One we had, that's the, here he is. There it is. I like my men fictional. I knew I'd move my little pillows somewhere. But yeah, Bob, now that I think about it, is definitely the wolf. Our little boy years ago, we had a full-size Pomeranian. His name was Wolf, and he was definitely a daddy's boy. And yeah, he loves wolf things. We've got a number of stuffed animals that are wolves. We have wolf blankets. So yeah, he's the wolf to my dragon. Oh, an actual character. No, I don't have those. It's cute. I don't have those boyfriend boxes that Dark Star made the video about. my guys are, other than Bob, the rest are fictional. And yeah, allergies. So just a sec. Then, so after talking about making your own space, there's the counting exercise. Now, this was a lot more relevant when I was working and out, shopping and doing different things. But the point of doing this is for a week, you write down absolutely everything you've spent money on. So whether that's a tea or a coffee, a book, your bills, whatever come up. She also recommends going on to look and continue this for a whole month. In other words, what's important to you in terms of spending and your values, and are you stopping yourself from creating by saying, oh, well, I'd love to get a new camera, web camera, but no, I need to do this, this, and this instead. And then it becomes a question of, do you really? So when I was working, that list would have included my Timmy's on the way to work each day. I probably went for a Timmy's some days at lunch. I have a coffee pot at home, which is, I can't even tell you the last time I had a Timmy's. And not just because I'm not out and about and I don't drive anymore. It's because I have coffee at home. I have a travel mug. So even if I was still going out and about and driving, I probably wouldn't be spending my money on Timmy's anymore because I've rearranged all of that so I can have my book shopping treats now and again. And that's what this is about, is it isn't about, and she makes the point, be thorough and be non-judgmental. It's an exercise in self-observation, not self-flagellation. So this isn't about being guilty about what you're spending money on or your treats or any of that. It's about where is your money going, and if there are certain things that you want to buy or do in order to make art, create art, whether that's paintings, YouTube videos, whatever, is there something that you can tweak and rearrange in your personal spending to make that possible? In other words, don't let money stand in the way of what you want to do. The final thing, she's got 20 different phrases to complete. And she's got a space to do them in the book. Now, typically, and I don't do this type of thing in the book, because when I go back to do, like I say, this is my third time through. So I don't put things in the book other than my notes down the side as I'm reading. But to answer questions, I leave blank because I don't want to be swayed down the road to what would I answer in the future. So some of the things are money makes people blank. I'd have more money if money equals blank. If I had some money, I'd blank. If I could afford it, I'd blank. And she's got other questions. So that also, finishing those, gives you an idea about money thoughts, what might be getting in the way of things. Maybe where do you need to change some of your thinking? Then she finishes with the tasks. I've circled the ones that I'll be working on possibly this week. I mean, I'm behind on getting those done, but that's okay. I'll get to them when I get to them. And then you do the weekly check-in. And that is, and I'm just checking my notes. Yep, woohoo, covered everything. So that's week 6 of The Artist's Way. Next week, we go on to recovering a sense of connection. And I'll be reading that on Sunday, making my notes, and then sharing that on the live stream Monday. So I'm going to continue doing the live streams on Mondays. I've got a few videos that I want to get done. Well, actually, I have a ton of videos I want to get done. It's just a matter of sitting in front of the screen and getting them recorded. Thankfully, because this one's camera's wonky on the laptop, I have my other tech that I can record on where the camera is much better. Just doesn't play nice with StreamYard, so that's why I use StreamYard on the laptop. And yeah, then I'm going to end up doing some productivity stuff. So Leslie says, if I win the lotto, hopping over to Canada, you'll be sick of me. I doubt it, and I would love to be able to visit with you and your kitties. I love that window thing. Like I say, my kids definitely would not fit in it. Even Tiki, I think, is a little too big for a window type seat like that. But yeah, I love seeing them on the side with you when you're doing your recordings. I think it would be awesome to have a number of people up here in Canada. And even if it would be just for a few weeks of a visit, it would be great. So yeah, that's week 6 of The Artist's Way, which I am now going to put back in the container. And then that way I always know where to find it. So yeah, I've got my tub for The Artist's Way. I need to update my reading list because I actually managed to finish a book yesterday. So I need to tally up how many books I've read. And yeah, that's kind of my babbling at the point. It's also, well, I have mentioned, took me a while. Oh no, it's the other book. This one so I finally finished Communion by Whitley Strieber. And that's part of, this also just brought up a bunch of stuff, but I didn't record it in my reading. So I started this May 7th, and I haven't even been on Goodreads to update my stuff. It's a bit, I don't know, it's like everybody. The world's just what? I need to finish Dark Memory. Actually, I'm enjoying it. I'm not usually big on romance books, but Dark Memory, and I actually happen to have it here, ties in with Dark Tarot. I found these at my local thrift store, and I've got 2 more. I actually need to check the author's website because this is book 34, 35 in the series. There's 39 altogether. But Dark Memories, like Dark Tarot, also has a really interesting tarot deck connected with the female main character of the story. Our other main character is, of course, a Carpathian, and this is her Carpathian novel series. I finally figured out the vampires in these, and I'll be connecting these into the bigger vampire series when I get that going again. So I haven't quite figured out what the deal is with the Carpathians, other than that's where they first, came to be settled. Excuse me. And then there's something about these people that, for whatever reason, the men have the dark part, the women have the light part, and they're split. So the men spend their lives trying to find the women, and there's only one woman for them. And if they don't find that other half of their soul, then they go totally dark and some turn into vampires. Not all of them do. And the ones who don't hunt the vampires. It gets kind of confusing, and I think I'm simplifying it there. But yeah, it's not a lot of boom chicka wah wah through it. So it's definitely no Silver Flame Zakatar type of read. But there's a lot of interesting historical stuff that comes up in them. So I need to finish that. And then I just got back to The Vanishing Hitchhiker. This is about folklore, urban fantasies. Really interesting, especially if you read or follow anything from the paranormal community, because a lot of those stories come up here. Or if you watch Supernatural, there's a lot of things that right from the episodes. And I know I put the date here somewhere where I started it, and I was like, holy crap, how could it be that long ago? But yeah, I started this October 2025. So I really do need to get it finished. I'm about halfway, and it really is interesting. Things like, well, I'll talk about it later. It's an interesting read, though. I'm looking forward to getting that finished. And then I still have The Close Encounters Man to finish. And I really am surprised that in American Cosmic, although she mentions J. Allen Hynek in passing, that's about all she does. So, yeah, making notes on that author, and she's why I read Communion, because she's a friend of Stryber. I also ended up finishing the whole Odyssey 2001 series. Kind of impressed with that, because there were 4 books in the series, and I read all 4 of them within about a week and a half. So I need to talk more about that. But I'm on a stall right now with Close Encounters because I need to start, and see, I have here a timeline. And so I have it all set up for the years, and I need to start adding the information I'm getting from this book into the timeline, add it in with what I get from Communion and American Cosmic. So the idea is to add the dates into this timeline. I've got a thing at the back so that I can add the name of the book and the short form, so that I'll have that beside the entry, because, well, like other people, you can end up making mistakes. And this way I'll have a cross-reference. So I have things in place. It's just finding a way to be able to sit comfortably for a few hours and get that stuff done. So I think I am going to be quiet for a bit. There we go. I finished talking about week 6. So thank you to the folks who are here, and Team Rewatch. Didn't say that at the beginning. Sorry. And if people are tuning in and catching up, then at least they have The Artist's Way at the beginning. I think I'm just going to leave the rest of this as a productivity bit. Get a few notes and things done, and then check back in the last few minutes of the stream. I'll keep an eye on the comments. Let me know what you're reading or what you're working on. I'm just checking here if there's any other books I need to add. I really should get into Goodreads. And woohoo me, I'm still holding at 55 in our book buying competition, so that's a good thing. And I've got a number of books that I need to highlight and finish. And I've got a bunch of library books that, like I say, I seem to be the only one interested in reading these. lately because they keep getting auto renewed, which means nobody else is looking for them, oddly. I don't know. I gotta be finding me some local folks to do book club and book chats with too. Although I'm always open to doing buddy reads and group reads as well. And yeah, we still have our Vampire Chronicles going. Actually, right now, Vampire Chronicles is the only one I still have going. Our Wheel of Time didn't work out, but that was a huge one with big books, and everyone just got busy. Akatar kind of got put on hold. That was partly because of me. We've still got the Vampire Chronicles going. I do have a couple of buddy reads coming up. I have Eagle's Gift coming up with Alan, Big Hard Books and Classics. The Amulet by Michael McDowell with Greg. Another bibliophile reads. So looking forward to that. Love Michael McDowell. Nothing like reading about the bad guys getting what they deserve. Okay, so kink stories. Woo! That sounds interesting. Still trying to hunt down Blood and Gold. Yeah, that's where I found most of mine. So hopefully you can track that down. And yeah, we've put our chronicles on hold till I think we said July for Blood and Gold. And partly, well, I'll see what I get done this morning. If I'm feeling up to sitting, and I'm hoping I do, and making a dent in some of these notes and some of these plans. And then I think tomorrow is going to be outside playtime because I still have some plants I want to move. And yeah, you can see the light because the neighbor. Yeah, I actually went out and had my coffee outside this morning. That was so lovely. So enjoyed that. Thanks, Leslie. I appreciate it. I very much appreciate that. And you and everybody in our Vampire Chronicle book read. It's been really fun. And I love the live streams. Like, it's so fascinating how we're all reading the same book. And I love through the discussions how we come up with different ideas and impressions and, what's going on with the characters and what's going on with Anne Rice. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying that. And it's made reading the Chronicles such a fun experience. And even with, I have to say, Akatar, as much as I disliked it the first read through, and I did, the second read through has actually been better in a group because hearing how other people interact with the characters and their impressions, like to me, it's still the biggest thing I miss about being in schools because I was in English classes a lot, is reading a book and then being able to talk to other people about it, whether it was looking at characters or the settings or the time the book was written in and having those conversations. I mean, I love being in all the classes. Well, as long as there wasn't a putz at the front of the room. So I should qualify that. I enjoyed being in classes that had amazing teachers, and I was lucky. The majority I worked with were. So I learned all kinds of great things when I worked in the vocational schools, from baking class, chef training, woodworking, welding, and had things worked out differently because I did the assignments with the kids from the textbook as well as different projects and things. So I was getting so into welding that, had our stupid government and all the rest of them not decided to eliminate vocational schools here in Ontario. had our school stayed open, I was actually going to be looking at getting my welding ticket. That would have been cool, but nope, that didn't happen. So here we are, me babbling in front of a camera. Um, the universe is a funny, funny place. But let's see. I had, how many books am I up to? 18. Woo! Awesome! I'm up to 34 books read this year. Woohoo! I just need to make note of that because Kat and I were chatting the other day and I couldn't remember how many I read. So, yay! I guessed that I was getting close to 30, but I've surpassed that. And then I also, I got to get through my book list and update because I still haven't made my book audit video, but I'll need to change a few numbers because I have knocked off some of my TBR books and to be finished books. Yay, me! And I need to put down here, update. Okay. So that, yes, now you can hear all the goofy things I do when I'm by myself in a day. Okay. Now, I may have mentioned these two before. Relic and Holly. Both have monsters. They're human, but very different motives. So I need to get that done because part of me is thinking I'm just going to move my fiction books downstairs, but I'll have to decide about that. And I did mention in my video, if you're interested in vampires, I found this on Book Outlet for $10 Canadian, which means American is probably less expensive. And it does a great job. Not only are there, and I lucked out. Oh no, did I? Oh, I may have broken down and got it. So the sticker on the back says $20. I may actually have paid that, which was a bargain because not only are there stories, but on the side there's extra information about the authors. In the back, there's the movies in chronological order. There is so much information in here. And it's published in 2001. So there's like a whole ton of other information, 25 years. That won't be in here, but that I also need for the timeline because I'm going to include the vampires with UFOs and things. And as bizarre as that may sound, I actually have a note. It was $8.91 on Book Outlet. That is one massive bargain because that was Canadian. So you'll definitely, if you're interested, can find it for less than that American. still ticks me off that there's two different prices for books, because there never used to be, but yeah, there's a lot of things that never used to be that are now the way it is. So there we go. But yes, vampires will be connected in with the UFOs and things, because it's a bit bizarre how they connect in a variety of different books. Okie dokie. I think I'll do the timelines after, because I can sit at the table and spread everything out, which means Panther and Tiki will be walking along. Tiki will be trying to grab my pencils and everything as I write. And yeah, I have a whole bunch of books here that I need to, I just need to get organized. I think I'd answer that question in the book. If I had money, I'd hire an assistant. Oh, cool. Well, be careful as you drive, sweetie, and kudos to you. I can't imagine driving in the city you live in. I mean, the drivers here are crazy enough, but oh my gosh, golly. And I hope you do have an amazing day, sweetie. All right. So I should put on my banner. All right. I could. I'm just going to keep babbling for now because, well, one, we know I can babble for hours, which does remind me I need to get a hold of a few people because there are a few lives that I want to get done. It's just a matter of scheduling. So that reminds me. Hey, Leslie, that reminds me, if you would like to do another live stream with me, shoot me a message on Voxer, and we can set up a time. What are we in now? May? Sometime in June if you're free. And we could even plan it for a Saturday and just do a chitty chat about vampires. Well, and you can talk about your hockey players. I'm not reading hockey, sweetie. I don't watch the show, but I'm more than happy to have you come on and chit chat about the hockey players and the vampires, because you've been watching the series, so you can be our go-to. What's happening and how are they actually connecting the characters versus the books. Which reminds me, I really do want, see, this is it. When I start going through, and it happened when I was doing the book audit and checking the books as well. As soon as I find books, I want to read them right then. And this is why I've got an over 60 to be finished. It's crazy. Now, some books, like The Hitchhiker, So some books, like the Hitchhiker one, I'm interested, but then I stop because, well, I want to do a video and I want to have the information fresh when I finish it. Then I end up reading something else, and then it takes forever to get back to it. Same with like Dark Memory and Dark Tarot. But those stories, thankfully, are fairly easy to do. So I think after I finish Dark Memory, I'll do a video about Christine Feehan and her shampoo romance books, otherwise known as the Carpathian series. And I don't mean that in a bad way. And yeah. All right. Um, okay. So yes, if you're just tuning in, I'm just puddling around a bit. I actually have some productivity part going. So I should put the banner up. And yeah, I did mention, so I've got another chart on the go here. And I need to add, so what I'm going to do with this chart is put the vampire stories. Well, they won't be in order. They're just going to be as I come across them, but with the publication dates, and that's going to be tracking them down through the different books. Definitely using Vampires by Skull, because that'll take me up to at least 2021. I've got the Idiot's Guide to Vampires, but I don't know if that one was into the 2000s or not. But between those two sources, and then some of the collections that I have, so like the supernatural short stories, I think they included when the books were or stories were published. Hopefully they do. If not, I'll Google it. And then, so basically this is going to be my practice list. And then I have a huge piece of Bristol board, and that's going to be my big, nice, neat vampire resource. And I'll be doing that for UFOs, Bigfoot, and the aliens as well. So I've got a lot of work to do. It's just getting it done. And well, if you have depression, you know depression sucks and takes up a lot of energy and time. So that's a boo. All right. And I have to decide. I found these years ago. I love them. I've got dolphins and a few others. Either now up here we call them duotangs, but that seems, oh, there's another name for them in the US, and it's great because I have Flip here. Now this one I'd been using for animal guides, but I've also got another binder set up for that. And then You can just add and take out pages. There's another handy flap at the back, so it's great for research and tracking information down. And I need to find my animal guide binder and move those notes over there. And then decide what I'm going to do with this. That big thing is handy because then I can see it at a glance. All right, so for the moment, and yes, normally when I do stuff like this, I would have music going, but the music I play, I'd end up getting a copyright strike, so nerds to that. All right. And yes, it's amazing how difficult it is to track down lined paper at a reasonable price. So thank goodness, being the dragon that I am, I have all kinds of lined paper from years ago. So yay me. Have the resources that I need to get stuff done. Only thing I need is the energy and the focus to keep getting it done. Do, 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 do. Do, do, do. All right. So now the only downside to having everything here, I don't have space to do some of my other stuff. Other reason to get organized. All right. Don't know. Have to wait with that. Now, the other thing I've stocked up on, and bonus, I even found a bunch of sets of these at my local thrift store, which I was really surprised by, but they came in a pack of 4, and they're the old school books. So lined pages, bonus, and they're so handy for making notes, which I think I'm going to have to start doing when I'm reading books. And then I have to finish the book. There's the other problem. Because there's some that I've started, then I have partial notes all over the place. I just need to welcome to the life of ADHD brain and here, there, all over. No, I haven't been tested. I'm not Sheldon, but I definitely have a lot of the traits. And in my 60s, I'm not worrying about getting tested now. I've figured out how to make things work for me, so I'm good with that. All right. Handy dandy ruler. Yes. So I mentioned about the file. This is all the video ideas I have. All right. I seriously got to get through that sooner than later. One of those is the update for the Arva Mill that I planned to do months ago. Found these at the dollar store. Love them. So handy. And again, yay, lined paper. And all right, that one's blank. So it means it was just waiting for something. Put that over there. Do, 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 do. All right, found my book audit numbers. Just need to get that recorded. Believing mirrors. There we go. It's the term I keep forgetting. All right. Whole bunch of papers to sort through there. If you've just popped in, you can let me know what you're reading or what you're working on, how your day's going. And I'm going to wrap this up at, well, probably a little before noon. Because that's when I need to go feed Panther and put out the bird seed, take out the carrots for the groundhog, and feed Lily. And okay. So that's the bonus to having these huge monthly calendars. The Once I'm done with the monthly part, they're handy for charting other stuff. So I now have room. Oh. Let's see what Julie has for prosperity every day. Today is May the 11th. Well, here we go. Love without strings. Led by Spirit, we love others with an open hand. Place our dependency on Spirit, not on human resources. As a result of our loving others freely, they too can freely love us in return. Well, there we go. So yes, and I love the copy of this. It's they call that beveled edges. They're not all even. A daily companion on your journey to greater wealth and happiness. There you go, since this week's about assessing our money and our thoughts and focusing on abundance. Well, abundance was last week. Words to live by. All right, let's get this chart figured out. Oh, I just thought. Let's see, just for giggles. Let's see if it's too late. Of course, if I oh, there. So I guess for my productivity spots, I'll just show you my ceiling. We can enjoy the night sky. Okay, here we go. Yay! So, at least another chart done. And it's kind of cool having stars on my sleeve. So you've had a few other people pop in. Let me know what you're reading, what you're doing. I'll be back to finish up chatting at 11:45. I guess I should put that on my banner in case people come in and wondering why I'm not talking. Here we go. And yes, the sky moves very slow because it's to simulate the actual night sky. I love this thing. There's, I think I have 10 or 12 different scenes that I can put up. What makes it fun, because with all the light pollution in the city, sadly, can't see the stars this gorgeous or clear. Mhm. Okay. I think it's time for some goal setting, and I've mentioned this book before. It's just a sketch pad. I use some fancy duct tape, glow in the dark stickers, and an old picture from a calendar. And I think maybe it's time to do some dreaming and set up. What do I want to start working towards? And then get some other things organized. Take care, sweetie. Thanks for joining, Leslie. I appreciate it. Hey, Kiki. What you doing, sweetie pie? You can look outside. Hey, kid. You debating whether to lay in your chair? Okay. Okay, well, I got a few things done. I'm going to pop back in early because it's just me, myself, and I. Well, and Tiki and Panther, of course. Big thank you to the folks who joined in. Much appreciated. And I'm just going to call it a wrap rather than chat to myself for 15 minutes. I can do that off camera. So I am going to go feed the kids, head outside because it is clear skies, lovely and sunny. And then I'm going to pop back in and keeping on with being productive. So I am going to wish everyone well. If you're Team Rewatch, thank you so much. And be well, be safe, and big hugs.